And we are back, folks, here on the Michigan Insider on the Big 1050 WTKA, online at the big1050.com, and a special live edition of the Michigan Basketball Insider NCAA Tournament style. And I got to give my esteemed guest, my friend and colleague, and one of the greats from the state of Michigan and the University of Michigan, a lot of credit because he called it. My friend, my pal. He said, Sam, don't worry, they're going to win it. And he was right. He was absolutely right. Who am I talking about? He was one of the best to ever do it in the state of Michigan, out of Clarkston High School, an All-American, the University of Michigan, became a first-round draft pick, played 10 years in the National Basketball Association. After he hung up his cleats, he became an outstanding color commentator, and he's still doing that to this day. College basketball broadcast, Detroit Pistons broadcast, and of course, here on the Michigan Basketball Insider on a weekly basis, breaking down his beloved Wolverines. And of course, he is my friend. I call him Timmy Mac, but he is our Tim McCormick. Tim, how you doing this morning?
I'm good, Sam. I never wore cleats either. I never hung them.
Okay, sneakers.
How's it going, my friend?
It's going great.
That's good.
It's going great.
Yeah, I so thoroughly enjoyed this season. It was so much fun. I think this is a fascinating team to me. And what are they? They're sloppy and erratic and frustrated. They don't shoot very well. They don't rebound. They don't protect the ball. And what else? Well, they play really, really hard, and they're team-oriented, and they're tough, and they're well-coached. They're clutch. They're inspiring. I love this team because they never gave up, and they fight. And most important, we can call them champions, can't we?
We sure can, man. And, you know, so many things that we talked about on this podcast, on this show, they just rang through and rang true, Tim. We talked about how it's a second season. You know, the Big Ten tournament is a chance to reset. And how would he and the coaching staff treat the layoff? The 5 days between games? Would they dive right into prep and, looking at both teams that they could potentially play? Or would they, take a break from that and just focus on themselves for a bit? And that's what the guys said they did. Is just a break from all of the grind of the scout. And it was more about let's focus on us for a minute. And take a break from all of that. And they said it did them a lot of good.
Yeah, I think Dusty is really a fantastic coach. I've seen many Michigan teams that are way more talented and are more consistent. This team has reached its potential, and that's really what you hope for. It's a team that's loaded with high character guys, winners. They seem to win every close game, which is a testament to their character. And one of the things that really jumped out at me, and I think especially the Wisconsin game, and maybe more than any game I can remember this year, Michigan should have lost that game. Like, they should have been beat down and disappointed. They were down, 10 points with 10 minutes to go, and then 8 down, and that's when teams get frustrated. Like, they can't make shots. They don't feel good about themselves, and they stop playing defense. They stop hustling back in transition a little bit. They don't pursue offensive rebounds quite as hard. They don't hold their block up, because shooting plays with your mind. If you make shots, you feel like Superman, and you can do anything. And when you miss shots, it takes your heart away. And that didn't happen in this game with Wisconsin. Like, they it was almost the opposite. Like the more that they missed shots, the more they dug in on defense. And really that's the model that you look for. And I think it goes in all sports. It's so hard to perform poorly and still have that junkyard dog attitude.
Yeah, that's the other element that I think really rang through. You might recall as we were talking about, and I was, listen to you talk about how much you love this team. So they're flawed. They're certainly flawed, but can you play over those flaws? And one of the ways in which you play over the flaws that they have, they're shooting the ball terribly. They turn it over a ton, although you would like to. That is something that you can control a little better, and we saw them do that against Purdue, for instance. Play some defense. Play some defense, Tim. You might recall before the Purdue game, one of the things I said to you as our resident basketball expert, Tim, I said, I've never coached a game in my life, but you played the game and you coached it. And I said, I'm sure you had coaches who told you this, Tim. You've probably filled it up on the offensive end a lot. But if you don't play defense, Tim, you're sitting your behind down. And I'm sure you said that to your players, your kids included. If you don't play defense, you are sitting down. And that would have been my edict heading into the game. Like, guys, we get in this game, and if I don't see what I need to see on the defensive end of the floor, you are sitting. I don't care who it is. You are sitting down. And Tim, we saw a commitment from the very beginning of the Purdue game on defense that was eerily reminiscent of the early season, where if you weren't giving it to them on the defensive end of the floor, you were on the bench. And I think that's what they rode to the Big Ten tournament championship.
When Michigan hired Dusty, my impression, just based on watching them get to the Final Four, I didn't have a great sample of 50 games that I'd watched Dusty May coach. My impression was he was an offense first guy, fun loving, free spirited, run up and down, shoot threes. And over the course of this year, I've learned that he's a very underrated defensive coach. Purdue, Maryland, Wisconsin, each of them shot below 40% from two. That's pretty impressive to me against high level competition. He taught Vlad how to own the rim when Wisconsin was driving. His game was textbook. I know that he and Danny Wolf were exhausted. and from my experience, when you're 265 and you play 3 straight games, the culmination of stretching and getting warmed up and then coming out after halftime and trying to get your body revved up again and chasing down a point guard it's hard. And when you're 265, like Wolf and Danny Wolf and Vlad are, you're gonna get worn out. And so that was just a gut check effort. They had nothing with their legs. I guarantee their legs were burning by the end of that game. And especially the last play when Vlad went straight up. He walled up exactly like you should. He would not have made that play early in the year. And did you see that Michigan had 4 guys in the paint? Who grabbed the rebound? Tre Donaldson, a point guard. Like, that's coaching right there. He wanted to be out on the break. That's a point guard's first mentality. Lead the break, get out on the break, fill the wings, whatever. They had everybody do their job at the most important moment. And that's good coaching. I also loved the fact that the last 6 minutes of the game, they went with that big lineup, and Wisconsin couldn't make them pay. I don't think that Will Cheddar is a great defensive player at all, but it was a really unique adjustment. I think Wisconsin struggled with it. The big lineup was a big key why Michigan won.
Yeah, there's no question. They really dialed it up. And you mentioned Dusty. I think one of the best things a coach can do is, identify what pieces he needs to complement him. And I've heard many great coaches say that, their most important job is hiring assistants, right? You think about the John Beilein era, and his era here at Michigan turned on hiring assistants. When he hired Jeff Meyer, Bakari Alexander, and Laval Jordan, it flipped his tenure here at Michigan, right? And so Dusty, in identifying what he needed, he went out and loaded up on defensive acumen, man. With Mike and just, you got some guys who really kind of help hone that aspect. And I got to credit, obviously, Vlad was great defensively, patrolling the paint. I give Danny, he was on the glass, and he altered some shots in the post. But I got to give the guards a ton of credit, man, because they were the guys who I criticized the most. I think they were the weak links on the defensive end of the floor. They were the weak links rebounding. They were the ones who needed to step up the most, and they were the ones who really did, I think, turn the tide the most. Whether it was Purdue and their effort against Braden Smith, it was outstanding. You mentioned Will Cheddar against John Tanji, but the play against Tanji, whether it was Reuben Jones or Namari Burnett, it was just outstanding. The job we saw the guys in the backcourt do from regular season to postseason, it was night and day. Their commitment on the defensive end of the floor, on-ball defense, locked into their assignment when it came to switches, communication, rebounding, totally different, and a big key for Michigan in their ride to the Big Ten tournament title.
Yeah, I noticed a couple of things as well. I agree. Other than if you drop your gum, just leave it there. That was key. Roddy Gayle is going to be an emerging player in this tournament. And the reason I think that is I didn't realize this watching him at Ohio State. He really struggles with length. When he drives, if he sees a body, he doesn't score it. He just doesn't. When you drive against Michigan State, you can get by your guy. There's a 7-foot guy there that's making you change your shot, and he struggled. That's not going to be the case against UC San Diego. I think Roddy Gayle is going to see the light of day. He's going to be able to get to the rim and have some real success. LJ Kaysen has improved his defense so much. There were times that early in the year I thought, what in the world are you doing? and he was solid. He and Cheddar made big threes. That was huge. And I still think Namari Burnett is capable of so much more. You're right, Sam. Their defense has improved, and now we kind of know who they are. Look, I've heard all the complaints that Michigan was done wrong because they've got to play, probably the best number 12 seed, and that they shouldn't have to play on Thursday. And the Big Ten tournament champion was not given their just due. Forget all of that. I think Michigan is playing really well. I watched film on UC San Diego yesterday. Michigan's going to beat them. I am very, very confident in that. They're big, they're strong, and UC San Diego, they're good, but they're a 12 seed. And I think that they're going to have a hard time hanging with Michigan inside.
Yeah. I'm anxious to get into that. Definitely to get into that scout for sure. I want to get your thoughts on a few players, and I definitely want to get some feedback from people because folks had a lot of questions. They want to pick your brain after they heard you call the win accurately, because no one was picking Michigan to win but Tim McCormick. Let me just tell you, Michigan fans were convinced that Michigan was only going to win 2 more games, period, Tim. Meaning, play 2 more games, period. 1 game in the Big Ten tournament, 1 game in the NCAA tournament. Tim McCormick said, don't worry, folks. Michigan's going to win. And that's exactly what they did. So now people want to know, okay, what do you think, Tim? So I'm going to get into that. But we talked a lot about Tre Donaldson.
Mm-hmm.
And, faith. I think faith is it's called faith for a reason, right? So you got to have some belief, even sometimes without proof. He had shown flashes, but it was not sustained. It was not consistent because it was not a role being the lead guy, being the guy that has to dial it up on a night in, night out basis that he has been asked to play consistently on his former team or even this one. And so he wasn't able to produce that consistently. But in this tournament, Tim, when needed, whether it was coming up with a big score, a big stop, a clutch free throw, what his team needed, he was able to infuse. This is what we've been looking for from Tre. I knew he had it in him, man, and he was able to produce it. I mean, you talk about being proud of a guy. I mean, super proud of that dude.
He did so many big things in the Big Ten tournament, and I'm going to always remember certain plays. I remember Jordan Poole making the three. I remember Namari Burnett making the three to win that game. I will always remember that layup end to end. I can't believe how fast he was running. I mean, you could put him up against Usain Bolt. He would have hung on that. I don't know if he's the fastest guy, but if you put a ball in his hands and let him dribble, he's got the unique ability. I think he can go faster dribbling a basketball than he can just running a sprint because he wants to score in a big way. I'm not sure what Maryland was thinking, but that finish was fabulous. Making clutch free throws. He nailed a huge three. He grabbed the big rebound. And I want this to happen so bad. I want Tre Donaldson to play against Auburn. A lot of people were upset that Michigan got a bad deal and they're going to get Auburn in their Sweet 16 Elite 8 game. I want to see Tre because he's going to be so excited to play against his old team. I hope that happens.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Danny could play Yale.
Yeah.
And Tre could play Auburn. I mean, our ball has to obviously bounce that way. And you talk about teams getting upsetting draws. I mean, Auburn maybe having to play Louisville and Lexington. That is I'd be questioning the committee if I were the number one overall seed and that was my draw. But let's go ahead and get into this scout. Just one question. I do want to get your thoughts. I want to acknowledge this. Barry Eastbrush. Let's keep this question in your head, Tim, for after the scout. He wants to know, why do you think people are sleeping on Michigan? Haven't they proven they can beat the good teams? 12 quad one wins. What is Michigan's ceiling in this tournament, Tim? I mean, I think he has a point. Certainly they went through their lows, but so do these other teams. So did these other teams that the committee had ranked as higher seeds.
Yeah, Auburn finished the year losing 3 of 4. Why are they given grace as the number one seed? I heard that Bubba Cunningham said that Michigan was inconsistent at the end of the year. They won the Big Ten tournament. They won 3 games against really good teams. But once again, I don't want to belabor the point. I don't care who they play because at this point you've got to win against whoever you're playing. I don't get it. I don't really care. In some ways, I don't think that the committee fully did their job. There's no way that North Carolina should have been in this tournament. Now they look great yesterday, but that's beyond the point. You play for 4 months, and I saw North Carolina play. I saw them against Duke twice. I saw them against Clemson. They don't measure up based on what the expectation is. I know they're blue blood and you want to see teams like that in the tournament. They drive ratings, but that was not fair that they were in it.
All right. So UCSD, you said Michigan is going to win this game. We have viewers on Twitter, we have viewers on Facebook, viewers on YouTube, in addition to those listening to us on the Michigan Insider on WTKA. And one of the viewers on YouTube, James Lee, said, I don't think UCSD can handle our size inside, and we will get the win. So, Tim, let's dive into this scout. He seems to agree with your overall observation that you sort of kind of gave us a preview on. Kind of think the size that Michigan has will overwhelm UCSD. Is that kind of your observation as we head into it?
It is, and there's a lot to like. It's a really good team. You know, I would imagine that if they played in the Big Ten, they're a sub 500 team. 15 straight wins. Their best players, Niwa Tate Jones. He leads the team in everything. I think except for steals. He's like Cooper Flagg. Leads them in points, rebounds, blocks, assists. He's really a good player. They have 4 guys that average double figures. They're all good players. None of them great. They're not a pressure defense, but it's really interesting because they invite you to make dumb decisions, and they switch on all the screens. Their one-on-one defense is good. They lead the Big West in steals. They don't block any shots at all, none. They're big guys. There's only one of them, and he's 6'8". And so I'm not sure if Michigan is patient offensively. I'm looking for 5 pass possessions.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody a touch. Go left, go right, go inside, kick it back out. Make them defend, and then all of a sudden throw it into Vlad, and he'll take that little angle jump hook with his left hand, which is amazing that he shoots it better with his left than his right. I think UC San Diego is very well coached. They're small, they're talented, they're tough. And once again, I'm extremely confident that Michigan will do with them what they should do. You know, when you play little guys, you've got to punish them and make them pay for being small. So I feel good about this matchup.
Yeah, normally I root for the little guy, but not this time. Not this time. Not this time. You know, a couple of we ought to be used to you making great observations, Tim, and you were talking about 5 pass possessions. I don't know if you had talked to them about that or if that was just something that you just wanted to see. But that was in line with one of their offensive adjustments. They felt like they were dribbling too much. And so a lot more ball movement that you saw as opposed to, guys just a lot of too much ISO ball. And that was a real, I think, revelation for them offensively to help and get them going. Hey, more player movement, more ball movement. And I think that's one of the ways to kind of get Roddy going. For instance, like if you look back to why he was so effective in that first Purdue game, Tim, his ability to get to the rim or moving around on and off the ball, going to the rim. And that came to life again in the rematch with Purdue in the Big Ten tournament. And I think is one of those things that as he in this game could really ring true. But to a man, I think their movement, their off-ball movement, that is that's going to be a staple. 5 pass possessions, as you said, a real staple of success for them on the offensive end of the floor.
Come on, Sam. Don't you think that Dusty and his staff listen to the Michigan Insider?
You know what? It's funny that you say that because Devin, what did he say? He say, Sam, he would say this about they watch the show. They watch the show. Yeah. I know that on the football side of things, they would just watch it just to see what people were saying, especially with the coaches. They see what the coaches are saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, of course they watch you guys because they respect what you say. So of course they watch what you guys say.
So,
Yeah.
the reason I feel like the 5-pass possession is so important is that every time that you make the defense switch or move, it creates chaos. And so a late rotation, maybe your balance is a little bit off in your stance. That's where Roddy Gayle is going to excel. That's where all of a sudden the closeout to Namari Burnett is a step slow. I think that the altitude is going to be a big deal, and I really hope that Danny and Vlad get off their feet, because I think altitude affects big guys even more. It's hard. Sam, when you walk out of the locker room, it used to be McNichols Arena in Denver. There's a huge sign that says "Warning, elevation issues." Like you look at that, and then all of a sudden your lungs burn. I heard a great stat. It takes 72 hours to get acclimated to altitude. Cotton Fitzsimmons, the NBA head coach, once told his guys, "Don't worry about the altitude, guys. We're playing indoors today." So, so
Come on, man.
I'm sure that I know Dusty's been there before. He's played in altitude before. What the best thing you can do is just play. Like with the first couple times that you run up and down the court, your lungs burn like it's nobody's business. But then after a half hour, you feel better. I hope that they just scrimmage and scrimmage and scrimmage, because it's better to get that burnout rather than the start of a game.
Yeah, so I do. I was going to ask you that question, and you kind of addressed it. I'm curious your adjustment period as a. I don't know how often you played in that region as a college player, but I know you played there frequently as a pro. How did you get acclimated? Because you didn't go days in advance as a pro. You got there and then you had to play like the next day or same day, however it worked when you went as an NBA player. So how was the acclimation period as a pro? And I ask you that question, knowing I think they, I know they got practice today, got open practice today. I think they arrived yesterday, I think. So I'm curious what you think that acclimation period is going to be. And I know the guys, from a coaching perspective, I know the coaches really had to kind of get in their heads a little bit, because they were ticked, man. They were ticked about the seeding. I think they were less ticked about getting the 5 seed and most ticked that they had to play on Thursday.
Right.
That was a real thing that the guys in the locker room were upset about. And so from a coaching perspective, you do have to kind of get their mind off of feeling disrespected by that, and maybe use it as fuel or motivation. But give me your thoughts on how you get them recalibrated.
Yeah, I've got 3 things. Number one, and they're all not related to your question, but when I saw they were playing on the first day and they were going out west, I thought, oh, Dusty's going to use this motivation. He's going to have a fire and brimstone speech, us against the world. Like, he's going to use that big time. That might be the last thing that he even says before they go out on the court. Number 2, UC San Diego has no depth. They basically play 5.5 guys, and I don't know if you've been out to San Diego. There's no elevation there, Sam. They're going to have to deal with the same thing. That's sea level, and Michigan has better depth than UC San Diego. And then third, you asked what I used to do. This may seem really strange, but whenever I arrived at Salt Lake or Denver, I would go to the stairs in the hotel and I would run up and down the stairs. I would run up to the top floor of the hotel, then I would run down. I'd run up and down, up and down. And I would rather have that burn in the stairwell rather on the court. And when I got to the arena for shoot around, a lot of guys would shoot. I would either run some stadium stairs or I would run suicides to get that first burn out of there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good tools of the trade. Hopefully that's something that kind of tips that the guys put to use as they get prepared to take on UCSD, and kind of looking ahead, not to say that we are overlooking an opponent, but if you think they're going to beat UCSD, Tim, who do you have them facing in the next round?
Texas A&M, and that'll be a tough battle. They just like UC San Diego addresses an issue that Michigan's not good at, and that's forcing turnovers. I don't think that's going to be a big deal, by the way. Like Michigan, they that's the way they play. They turn it over. It's not like UC San Diego is going to make them turn over 25 times. Like instead of 14, maybe they have 15 or 16. I don't think that's going to be a huge issue. Against Texas A&M, the thing that I worry about is that this is a tough physical group that's one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the country. Now, they can't shoot a lick, and they miss a lot of shots, but Michigan's going to have a hard time rebounding against them. But once again, I'm gaining confidence in Dusty May. Sam, you grew up with Bo Schembechler football like I did. There were so many games where I would say, Dad, I'm worried. You know, Michigan's getting beat in football. This can't happen. My dad always used to say the same thing. Don't worry. Bo is great at adjustments. I'm starting to feel that way about Dusty May, and that's part of the reason why they win a lot of close games. So don't worry. Dusty's got this, Sam.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he does. I think Michigan is poised to be in the Sweet 16 at least. I think the Big Ten will represent well. I think Michigan State got a sweetheart draw. Mm-hmm. Being in Cleveland, I think they're got a cakewalk. I actually think Bryant is going to be their toughest game to the Elite Eight when you consider, Iowa State. Keyshawn Gilbert is out for the tournament. So I think that I think Bryant, ironically, I said this yesterday, I think Bryant is going to be a sneaky sort of kind of the toughest game. And if they handle that without incident, I think Michigan State is going to be in the Elite Eight without incident.
Is it possible the basketball gods would grant us an Elite Eight matchup with Michigan State? Oh my gosh, I would be so excited by that. I think that would be so much fun.
I think it would too, Tim. From your lips, the C Sparty in the Elite Eight with a chance to exact some revenge right then and there. That would be oh so sweet. Want to give you a shout out. Jacob Phillips said, Tim, I work with one of your old teammates at Clarkston. His last name is Colombo. He said, we were talking about this show. And he said, back in the day, the state of Michigan was a powerhouse in high school basketball. And indeed, he was right. It was a powerhouse.
I know who he's talking about. And thanks for the message. Very good.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Tim, we appreciate you. You got our basketball slate tipped off right. That's a better pun, because we're going to have the king of Philly, Phil Martelli's going to join us. And I had to get that Bryant mention in there because that's going to be, you think he might be sliding a few little tips in there? What do you think about that matchup?
No doubt. It's a really interesting story. I had Bryant last year in a broadcast, and Jared Grosso was their head coach, and he had some issues come up. And so Phil Martelli Jr. was elevated. He's ready to go. He looks so young out there, but you know that the sage wisdom of Phil Martelli Sr. is going to be there. And I think he may be wrong about that. I think that's a massive beatdown for Bryant. but I hear what you're saying, Sam. That's a nice thing. That's a nice thing about the tournament, right?
Yeah. Hey, well, they have size. They have guys who played at the high major level. They won't be intimidated. They can not get overwhelmed by the depth and shoot it well. They'll have a shot to make it interesting. We'll see.
Yeah, Sam. Right. Can I make one last point?
Sure.
For those that have not filled out their brackets, this is the year in which the big boys dominate. The mid-majors making it to the Final Four are not going to happen this year. And the reason is that the power conference schools have so much more NIL money. that they have gone in and they have grabbed the best players from mid-major basketball, and they're powerhouse teams that are going to be really hard to beat in this tournament. Just keep that in the back of your mind.
Yeah, great stuff. Great stuff, Tim. Appreciate you, man. And thanks for accommodating us early. I know you got a lot going on, man. So thinking about you, thanks a lot. And we'll talk to you again soon.
All right. Sounds good, Sam. Thank you.
Thanks for watching.